Welcome back. You're watching a special edition of The Heat coming to you from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Joining us now is Dr. Chen Taotao, Director of the Center for Latin America China Management Studies at Tsinghua University in China. And Dr. Chen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
The relationship between China and Brazil, the trade relationship, is growing all the time. But there was a recent survey done by a Brazilian business magazine which showed, among other things, that 68% of Brazilian entrepreneurs view Asia as competitors and 31% see Asia as a competitive threat to Brazil. How do you change that?
Yeah, I think it's actually, first of all, we need to understand each other. I'm the professor of international business, right? Actually, we're so far away and we have different kind of strengths. So the business is going to be well when we two sides of the business people really shake hands. We have a big room for collaboration. I think when we understand that, that kind of a competition sense going to be released.
In fact, there was a professor at MIT which said that Chinese companies should adapt to Latin American culture as a first step.
Yeah, whenever a company going abroad, no matter have to be Chinese company or other company, no matter have to be Brazil or other place, when you do international investment, we have to understand the host country's environment, have to be aware of the cultural differences and to do the adaptation. It's the general principle of international business.
And that's a two-way street, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But you know, when Chinese company get into Brazil, it's a big challenge for them really understand Brazil. Of course, vice versa. Right now, the flow is more from China to Brazil. So our company have bigger challenges in front of them, but they are putting a lot of effort there.
Now, you're a professor of management studies. How does one go about that? How do you get personal contact between, two very different cultures?
Yeah, it's a relatively long story. We have the university contact at the very beginning. So I first came here to get into the FGV business school, and together with one of the famous professors here, we teach China Associate course here. So from then on, I have a lot of contact here. And just because I'm the professor of international business, I start to work with many Chinese companies as well as some of the Brazilian companies. Oh, actually, more precisely, the Brazilian think tank. And then we have more opportunity to get involved in a Brazilian company. That's how we
this year marks the 40th anniversary of relations between China and Brazil. Trade volume has increased quite a bit over the last 40 years. But there are still concerns about China's role here. But you've pointed out, actually, that Chinese investment in Brazil and in this region is relatively limited, isn't it?
Yeah, the number is relatively small because we're too far away. The cultural differences are huge. It's really need some time to understand each other. That's why when a company get into here at the first time, they got into trouble because they're not get a thorough understanding. But through all these years' experience, many companies become much better. Actually, I did the interview for the state grade, which is doing very well here. I'm proud of them because they really accumulated knowledge of how to understand this business environment, how to build themselves into this society. So I'm proud of, actually, they are very good inside China. Right now, they are a good player in this market.
If we look at a country like Brazil, I mean, it has traditional ties to Europe. So how competitive is it for China to enter a market in Brazil?
Wow. As a latecomer, we're face a huge challenge of competition. Yeah, but as I'm proud of my country and the company, they are a good learner, and then they learn and observe how the other countries, multinational, compete in this market, and they learn it and also try to see how to collaborate with them. I think in the future we're going to do well. Right now, we're still working on that.
One of the criticisms leveled at China is that China imports primary commodities from countries like Brazil and many other countries in Latin America for that matter, and then exports manufactured goods to these countries. A country like Brazil wants to see that change. They want to see two-way trade of manufactured goods as well. Do you see that happening?
Yeah, I saw it. Actually, I have to say that with the globalization trend, the basic principle of globalization is every country do what they can do best. So this type of distribution, the supply chain issue, is the result of globalization. It doesn't mean that China meant to sell a lot of the manufactured things here, and then the people here try to sell commodities. It's just because they are they do have good resources, and inside China we do not have resources when we build up the supply chain, and we need that. So it's a natural result of globalization. But I do understand in this part of the world, as well as other countries, people rethink about the result of globalization. So every country most of every country, okay, they think how to build the supply chain inside their market as much as possible. It is also the same sort here. We will see if we are an investor here. We need to see the strategy and what they want for the host country to see whether we could do it economically feasible to help them to build up more supply chain. If we can do that, if we can join hands, maybe the mutual benefit future, as what you said, we can bilateral to sell the manufactured good, gonna be happen.
There certainly are opportunities, aren't there? Because the Chinese economy is changing. It's changing from one of being a manufacturing center to one of a consumer economy, also service industries. What about things like technology? Do you see more cooperation between China and Brazil in that sphere?
Actually, from China, when we do our development, we move step by step up to the relatively upper part of the supply chain. But those parts actually based on what we start, which means we have specific industry that might be better than the other part. But Brazil, they have their own advantages. For example, they really take care of the environmental issue, and they have the technology, even the procedure to protect their blue skies. And right now, China is doing catch up, and we'll see that there's a lot of this type of area, the technology, including the concept, the process we can learn from Brazil. So every country have their own features, advantages we can learn from each other.
So do you see a lot of green technology going from Brazil to China?
I think maybe, I did not do the detailed research on that, but I think that could be the area that here doing much better than ours. We can take advantages of learning from them.
The BRICS countries, how important is that grouping to the bilateral relationship between China and Brazil?
I think every kind of that event bring the attention of the world and bring the leadership of two sides. And then when people get together, shaking hands and show that they trust each other and they want to build the future together. Actually, that will help people to build up the confidence for each other. You know, China is a kind of country that people really trust the government. The company go with the government, right? So if they see the two countries have improved the relationship, and they might feel safer to invest in this type of investment. I think that might be a good result if, not if, actually I would wish this BRIC conference a good success.
You know, the signature foreign policy project, if I could put it that way, of China is the Belt and Road Initiative. Brazil is not a member of that initiative yet. It hasn't joined that initiative. Do you see Brazil becoming part of it in the near future?
Again, it is a matter of the understanding. The initiative, the most beautiful part of this initiative is it is an initiative of collaboration. And then we add a beautiful concept there. And it's not only the concept that we really want to do, for example, the mutual benefit, these type of things. Once our partner, once this country more people from government, think tank, and all the people, right? If they understand it more, they're gonna be with us. So it's a process of improving understanding. I believe after that, they're gonna join the Go and Roll initiative, no doubt of that.
Right. In terms of management, in terms of business studies, how important is it for there to be more people-to-people contact between countries?
I think it's very much important to have the people-to-people contact. See, we can use the internet to write email. You know, you can do a lot of things through this type of a new technology. But when people get together, eye to eye, they know what you're feeling. You know whether you can trust them. You have the warm feeling between the people. And actually, I have a very warm feeling from the Brazilian friends. I think they're very friendly, never say no to the friend, you know. When I get into this country, I feel warm. I feel I can work with them. I believe when I get in touch with someone like me, with the Chinese people, and they're going to have the same feeling. And then we have the trust building, and we have everything going.
And of course, language is very important as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly true. That's somewhere China needs to improve. We need to do more education of the language so that we'll educate our young people to learn the Portuguese. Me too. I do not know how to do that. I'm ashamed of that.
And of course, people have to learn Chinese as well.
Thank you very much for saying that.
Getting back to the situation, the trade situation in the world right now, of course, we are hearing a lot about the trade war between the United States and China. This has been going on for many months, and we hear that there may be a deal soon. We don't know that. But has that also presented an opportunity for a country like Brazil to grow its relationship with China?
I actually never think about this. Country to country, we have honest relationship. It doesn't really depend on what the relationship with others.
Yeah. No, certainly it's not a zero-sum game, but if we look at Brazil, its commodities exports to China have increased because of the trade war, hasn't it?
Temporarily, it could be benefit some, but think about future. If we have good relationship again with US and then you are lost, it's that kind of a turbulence. I don't think it is the country like Brazil like. The most important thing is to really improve understanding of our bilateral relationship, and then we really improve our relationship in the near future. That's something we really can depend on, not depend on any other type of things like trade war.
So, as we heard earlier on from the former Brazilian ambassador to China, China always thinks in the long term, doesn't it?
That's exactly true. We have the history of 5,000. Yeah, so we sort of have that kind of mood to looking at the things from the long run. Yeah, that's true, as what you mentioned.
Dr. Chen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for this opportunity.
I've been talking to Dr. Chen Taotao, Director of the Latin America Center at Tsinghua University in China. And that's it for this special edition of The Heat, coming to you from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Thanks for being with us. Hello everybody, I'm Anand Naidu. If you enjoy the thoughtful, engaged discussions you see on The Heat, you may also want to subscribe to our podcast. It's appropriately titled The Heat. Twice a week we take a deep dive on world headlines, talking to experts, journalists and others. It's a fresh, focused and intimate look at the issues that matter most. Whether it's the Hong Kong riots, the latest Middle East conflict or US politics, The Heat podcast gives the clear context needed to understand both what's going on and why. And what's best, we come to you. Whether you're at home or on the go, you can find The Heat podcast just about anywhere podcasts are found. Just search The Heat CGTN. Have a listen today and subscribe. Thanks.